when Prabhupada gave instruction about the bullock cart was in 76. I think it was month of September, around Radhastami time, when our Nithai Gaur World Traveling Sankirtan Party had come to Delhi. And around that time we had lost our big buses. They were from Germany and they could only stay for so many months in the country. So around that time they had to go. But I still had a man, because that party was originally Hansadut's party, and so he had returned to Germany for some business, and so I was left behind as in charge of the party. So as we lost the vehicles, then Prabhupada is the one, as he realized that we had no mode of transportation. One day he called me upstairs in his quarters, and what did they say, out of blue, he he said, what about bullock carts? Because he said how these big machines and vehicles, they always break down, and so much maintenance and so much. And I don't know, maybe he knew that I was from a simple village background, so he came up with the idea of bullock cart. And this is how I got this new assignment of traveling in the cart, village to village.
So in the afternoons we would get to go to the Krishna book readings, and fortunately I got to be the designated reader every day. We would sit, and sometimes Prabhupada would sit there and he would make comments during the readings, and sometimes he would just sit very quietly. Sometimes he would laugh. And I can remember I would always try to find stories about demons, because more than anything Prabhupada would react. He would usually be laughing. When Krishna was killing the demons, he would get reactions and he would laugh about it. And one day in searching for something, he said, just read from anywhere. He said, Krishna is like a sweet ball. He said, wherever you bite, it's sweet. So then I quickly got to the next page and began reading.
He always was stressing that this was part of our tradition, that Lord Jagannath in all his majesty would go out and take a chariot ride. And it made a very personal thing. Whenever Srila Prabhupada would talk about Krishna, it made it so much more personal. We still didn't have the real personal feeling that standing before the Lord, we could see the Lord and sense that, that feeling and that rapport with him. But Srila Prabhupada would make it personal, that Krishna is coming out. And I remember when Srila Prabhupada arrived at the temple for the day before the festival, he came to the temple and we were making the chariots right across the street in the lot. So Prabhupada went over to the lot. We're all, it was still in disarray and everything. It was a small lot, but there was 3 chariots being built there. And Prabhupada painted his obeisances in front of the chariots. And he looked at me and he said, the chariots are as good as the Lord. And that made it all so much more personal. That here we are, we're building chariots for the Lord, but the chariots themselves were, objects of worship. So it made it, a real. It brought the whole spectrum of Krishna consciousness was there in the Rath Yatra festival. The chariots, the garlands, the prasadam, the instruments, everything, the clothes for the deities. We're all on that same worshipable, level.
In Boston, he began to explain. He said, a devotee may come and may go away again tomorrow. And in those early days, we looked at Srila Prabhupada and ranked disbelief and said, go away? But why would any devotee want to go away? This is it. This is the perfection. This is where you go to after you've done everything else. Why would anyone ever want to leave it? But Prabhupada said, nonetheless, some devotees may go away. So we can't rely simply on word of mouth, because things will happen, things will change, the words will be altered. He said, but we all listen to you, Srila Prabhupada. How will anything ever get altered? We'll always repeat what you say, and therefore it can't possibly get altered. Little did we know, but Prabhupada, having this prescience of knowledge of past, present, and future, was planning for 10,000 years, not simply planning for this week or this month or this year. And we were trapped in our time, having a wonderful time bringing new people into the movement, couldn't see the need. But Back to Godhead began to expand. We brought more and more books on board, and people began to distribute them. And it wasn't until much, much later, years later, that book distribution took off. And then it became self-evident as to why or how so many books could be distributed. And Prabhupada did sanction that people getting them might misuse them. And that was a casualty, or a friendly fire casualty, that we had to absorb, was the possible karmic reaction to giving someone a book and forcing it on them or something, and then they will throw it in the trash. It'll be covered up with old hamburger grease or something. So we have to accept that that might happen, and this is the risk that we were taking.
Prabhupada always had this really, close feeling with Jayananda, and Jayananda was he was the nuts and bolts man there in San Francisco. You may know that when he first became a devotee, he drove a taxi. Although he was an educated, a man, he had his degree in engineering or something like that from the University of Ohio, but he somehow ended up in San Francisco, and he became a devotee, and he felt the responsibility of going out and driving a taxi and to provide money for the temple. And he was one of the few devotees in the beginning who actually held down a 9-to-5 job. So Jayananda always would take that personal feeling of, if there's something wrong or something broken in the temple, specifically the cars. You could always find him underneath the cars, fixing the cars. And Srila Prabhupada knew this. He knew that Jayananda was behind the scenes, making it all work. And later on, he would make comments like Jayananda would walk in the room once when Prabhupada was lecturing, and he said, "Oh, the Goswami has arrived." And on another occasion, he said, "Jayananda looks just like Lord Chaitanya, big shoulders, big, man." And Jayananda almost blushed his way out of existence when Prabhupada would compliment him like that, because he was naturally so humble.
Kirtananda said he cooks. He said, I've trained him in cooking. He said he cooks very nicely. He said, but he doesn't know how to massage yet. Prabhupada said, anyone can massage. He said, it's not very difficult. And Kirtananda went aside, and Prabhupada said, so he said, follow me. And we went outside, and he said, take the lota. So I grabbed the lota, and I was holding it. And we walked outside about 20, 30 paces, and he said, give me the lota. And I handed him the lota. And he went off into the trees, into the bushes, to pass. So then he came back after a few minutes, and he handed me the lota. He said, here, now wash this. and I became very aware of what my service was as Prabhupada's servant, that, no matter what the menial thing to do, that this is what I did, and I took great pleasure in it. I thought, well, this is great. I'm actually going to be taking care of Prabhupada in whatever little need he had.
The day we wanted to start our Pulakar Sankirtan from Vrindavan to Mayapur, we went to see Srila Prabhupada. Wanted him to give a little inaugural speech and some further instructions. And because it was winter time, he asked us that we all should have 2 blankets with us. He said our cart should have rubber tires, and not the other kind, the wooden ones. And he said when we go to the village, we should park next to the well. And he gave reason why. Says, so the well is the heart of the village. All people of the village, they come to the well to get the water. So you need not go to them, or they will come to you if you are next to the well. And he said, well meaning water, and water, then you will be suchi, you will also stay clean. So that was his instruction. He also talked how Mahatma Gandhi had kind of failed, because because Mahatma Gandhi was trying to keep people in the villages, but Mahatma Gandhi was stressing on a village industry and whatever is available within the radius of 5 miles, they should just be happy with those resources. Idea was kind of good, Prabhupada said, but he said what lacking was this spirituality which would satisfy their souls, and then they would be happy with the bare minimum facilities. So he gave us a task. The instruction was that you go to the villages and try to increase their attraction for the holy name. And as they have this higher taste for the name of the Lord, then wherever they are, they will stay there.